Yeah.
But going back earlier to when you mentioned that you kind of fell out of the kind of love and misaligned yourself with the fashion and the corporate world and so
Yeah.
forth. You mentioned that you did obviously meditation as well and cognitive
Yes.
behavior therapy. After, how soon kind of after did you kind of go into that world of meditation and therapy for yourself?
It was coinciding a lot.
Mm.
It was coinciding with everything that I was going through. So I think it started before I left the industry. And it was a friend actually that said, it was a couple of people that said, stop, just from conversations I was having and like sharing how I was feeling. I can't even remember those conversations now. I just remember those people saying to me, you need to start meditating. And obviously at the time, I'd never heard of it. Or maybe I'd heard of it, but it was never on my radar. And well-being wasn't as big as it is now. Now these practices are just normal. You know,
Mm.
you hear about them all the time, but they weren't. And I think it was so foreign to me. And but I started, and literally, I mean, it was like the floodgates just opened. I started meditating, and it was like my soul was in so much pain, and it was so tired. And because the thing is, I think, you know, working in a fast-paced environment, having quite a fast life, you're just coping, you're just going,
Mm.
and then you stop and you're like, oh my God, like literally, I have not given myself a break, you know. And so that's where that started. And then another friend suggested CBT, so I started having therapy. And yeah, it was the best two things that I could have done at that time.
I can imagine, because all it takes is one moment just to open up your eyes to a whole new world, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard so many amazing things about meditation. Like you said, it's been around for years, obviously, but it's only nowish really where more people are doing it.
Yeah.
I've heard so many stories about people just taking 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever it might be, just to
Yeah.
meditate. And for you, was it like a daily thing that you did it, or were like every other week, or how did you kind of do your routine of meditation and CBT?
Yeah, so with meditating every day, ideally you want to do it every
Every
day. So
day.
I still meditate, you know, every day. Or the thing is, sometimes what can happen, what a lot of us do, when things are going great, we stop doing those things, but you've got to continue.
Mm.
And the CBT, I was having it kind of every 2 weeks, I think, at the beginning, and then it kind of became every month, and yeah, and then it stopped. But CBT is something that, you know, same with coaching. Like, you know, I did a lot of inner work, but I have done a lot of inner work since then as well. So
Mm.
that was the beginning of my journey. But I've done inner work repeatedly through my process. So the thing is, they are always things that you might need to go back to, you
Mm.
know, because as human beings, we're constantly learning about ourselves, we're constantly growing, we're constantly shedding um, old parts of ourselves, and through that process, sometimes you need support.
Of course, we definitely do.
You know?
And with the CBT, like I was saying before the podcast, that I'm really fascinated about the brain, really fascinated.
Yeah.
What kind of things were involved with CBT exactly? Did they give you like a daily plan for you things to work on, or just talk? So how did it all work exactly?
Yeah, so with CBT, it's more about talking,
Mm.
and you do get given kind of certain tools and exercises to do in the session, and then it's actually very similar to coaching in many ways.
Mm.
You know, and then my therapist would always say, are you eating well? Are you exercising? You know, so it's about kind of looking after yourself holistically. But
Mm.
yeah, there was just a lot of purging. So there was a lot of talking. There was a lot of kind of digging deep, digging into the past, you know. So yeah,
Mm.
lots of talking.
Yeah. And how long did you do that for?
I think in total I did it for about 3 years,
Oh,
but
wow.
no, but in the end, I just wanted to hang out with my therapist. I was going to my
Just paying them to
sessions.
chill.
I was going to my sessions, and I didn't have anything to say. And
Oh, wow.
I was like, yeah, because I think the therapist or even a coach can become such an integral part of your life, because the thing is, they've helped you overcome something that's so deep within. that you develop this relationship. I used to have this fear that if something ever happened to my therapist, what would I do? Like, I'd be like, what will I do if something happens to him? And yeah, so I think, I think he also helped me transition from London to Derby, so supported me through that process as well. So he was supporting me through different things that were happening in my life. But eventually, like I said, I was going to my sessions and just having a chit chat. And then it was like, right, Saima, you really got to stop this now.
Oh, I can imagine. I mean, are you still in contact at all?
No, sadly. Well, the thing is, he's there. We kept in touch because I haven't had it for years now.
Yeah.
We kept in touch, and if I was to email him tomorrow, he would, get back in touch. Like, we had such a good relationship. But yeah, that reminds me, I need to get a reach out and just say how I'm doing.
No worries. Oh, that's amazing. But you actually mentioned about kind of purging there and talk about maybe like different traumas and so forth. I mean, for you, when you first initially started CBT, was it very difficult for you to actually kind of open up in ways that you never thought before and kind of go through things that were disturbing you in different ways?
I don't think it was difficult for me to open up, only because I am someone that will do whatever it takes to get better. To get well, I will do whatever it takes. I know that is a huge fear for a lot of people, to open that kind of worms, to go within, because they don't want to confront what is there. For me, that wasn't the case. I was like, I will do whatever it takes, and so I wouldn't say it was difficult. I wouldn't say that was difficult, but the process was difficult in the sense of the healing journey was painful. It was painful. Yeah.
I can imagine. And that journey, you said like towards the end, you're just hanging out with your therapist. And kind of how long do you think it took you to really get everything off your chest and get to the point where you are today? Did it take you, like, say, a few months, a few weeks, about a year or two?
Yeah, the thing is, it's tricky, because I'd say it took about a year. Yeah, it took probably a year to work through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But then other things would come up, other things would kind of come up, and I can't even remember what we were doing in between. Like, the third year was probably chit chat,
Yeah.
and like just not even doing much. I think maybe in the second kind of year, maybe it was a transition. It was the move to Derby, and so so he really helped me through that journey, because that was going to be quite a big thing for me, because obviously I lived in London for such a long time.
Yeah.
So he helped me through that. But I would say a year. I'd say a year to really but then the thing is, Georgia, it doesn't stop there. I think when you do this inner work, when you're on this journey, based on certain triggers, it comes up again. Like your traumas are in layers in your body. They're like buried like in your body as layers. And so you do a load of inner work and you're releasing one layer of trauma, then something else might trigger you like a year later or 6 months later, and then you might have to do some more inner work, and so the inner work kind of continues. But the more you do, the more you let go of, the more you release, the more free you kind of start becoming and feeling. So it's not as simple as kind of just a year and then that's it.
Of course.
It's kind of ongoing. The inner work is ongoing.
Yeah, and you mentioned about the layers there, which is something that actually you do with your meditation. Is it 10 steps of meditation that you do?
I said, I've got a course called 10 Days of Meditation.
10 days, sorry, yeah. And going back to going through what you learned through your CBT, have you kind of applied that to what you do today now with what you do in everyday life to your work as well?
Yeah, so I think there's a big crossover with, there's a very therapeutic element to coaching, because we do, depending on what the client needs, what their requirements are. So for example, one of my clients last year was suffering with anxiety, so you know, so we kind of did a lot of therapeutic kind of work in coaching. But then sometimes, you know, through someone can come for because they have a dream, but you end up doing deep work because you know, because it's very tightly connected, because obviously a lot of your limitations are linked to past experiences, you know, your limiting beliefs, and you are connected to your past conditioning and the messages that you've received externally from the media, from family, from culture, from society, from education. So you have to kind of unpack and give those messages back that don't belong to you, so that you can blossom and you can be who you were meant to be.